welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. And we pick up our conversation where we left last Sunday, courtesy of the feedback we've gotten from you, our viewers. You really want to know the depth on how to get justice in this country if you're a victim of gender-based violence. And in studio with me to talk about this and what you need to do and what you need to avoid is none other than Dr. Kizzie Shako. She's a senior forensic medical expert, and something she's not very comfortable with. She's Kenya's first female police surgeon.
Oh my gosh.
We've branded you that.
Yeah.
Take it. And of course, she's most importantly, she's the founder of Vunja Kimya Foundation. That's why she's here, sort of just to help us break the silence around gender-based violence, to help people understand what is the first step to take when you want to seek justice in this country. Thank you so much for creating time for us. I'd like to begin from, let's begin here. You're an expert in forensic pathology. You've turned out now to be a human rights defender, and you're very passionate and vocal about this subject, gender-based violence, specifically on sexual violence. Talk to us about that connection, that relationship between, you know, being a medical expert and being a human rights advocate.
First, thank you for having me here. It's always a pleasure. And so I would like to say just from the get-go that I am a forensic medical doctor, and this basically deals with the living injured persons, or people who are alive and who are involved in violent crime. Yes, I'm very passionate about human rights violations and adhering to human rights, and so this is what drives me in everything that I do. It's been a very interesting journey, very with many twists and turns, but basically what happened was after I joined the police surgery in 2012, I came across several cases of violence dealing with the living, because I had just come from the dead, now I was moving to the living. And what I noticed was there were a lot of things that were happening within the community that, in my view, were contributing to violence and may possibly have been avoidable. And so this is what led me to create a platform where I can educate people and tell them, don't leave your child with people you don't know, because that could leave them in a potentially abusive environment. You need to get parenting classes if you want to properly bring up your children and know the difference between abuse and not abuse. So those are just some of the things that I was educating people on. So and it's been it has brought a lot of positive feedback.
And we commend what you do, especially having even taken this a notch higher to become the voice of the voiceless when it comes to gender-based violence. But before we get there, I just want to understand how you read the trends when it comes to these cases of gender-based violence. The numbers, are they a true reflection of what is happening on the ground, or there could be still some silence existing when it comes to reporting these cases?
So over the last 8 years, what I can say for sure, because I don't really have statistics, our statistics and data it's very fragmented. Everyone, like the DPP's office, may have statistics that are different from the hospital level, different from the community level, different from the police. They are not yet really brought together so that we have a harmonized portal for data collection and management. But what I've noticed from my personal experience is that the cases are increasing rapidly. It has been already very high in the past. I remember in 2015 I was in a panic because I thought, okay, I'm seeing like 5 people who allegedly killed their wives or spouses, and numerous sexual violence cases involving children who are less than 13 years of age, and this has just increased, especially during COVID. So the thing is that this now caused me to really begin to ask questions. Who is in charge of this? What are we going to do about it? Is there like an overall body that's dealing with all these cases? And so we are still looking for those answers, and hopefully that is one of the areas that we are going to we hope to see a united body that is overall looking at the mechanisms involved in proper investigations and management.
Sort of like a multi-sectorial approach.
Yes, a multi-sectoral approach that is coordinated, cohesive, where everyone understands how they are plugging into this one process. Right now, everyone is fragmented, so you need everyone to be on the same page.
You'll tell us what value that will add in this course, just working under one umbrella, to deal with this particular vice. But I just also want to understand, from your perspective, what do you think are the biggest contributors to the underreporting? Because you've just cited that the numbers could be worse. What we are seeing is not enough. It's not what is the real situation on the ground. What could be the contributing factors? No wonder we are talking about breaking the silence.
Yes.
Why are people not forthcoming about some of these cases?
So there's definitely underreporting, and you'll find that as the cases, maybe you'll have 100 cases reported to community level administrators. By the time it gets to the medical level, a few have fallen off. By the time they get to filling of the P3 form, for example, they're even less. And by the time they get to court, it's even less. It just goes reducing in number because of the fragmentation in all the service providers required for a case to be produced in court or presented in court. And so one of the things that that causes this underreporting is lack of knowledge. First of all, many people are not sure of what to do. Some don't even know it's a violation. That's really the most shocking part, especially among married women. They may not know that what has happened to them is a violation. So there's knowing that you've been violated, then knowing what to do after you're violated. Where do I go? Who do I tell? What should I do and not do? And so this confusion causes problems. So even when a person does talk to someone else, maybe a parent, an aunt, a spiritual leader, a community leader, they also need to know what to do, and in a timely manner. The thing is, with sexual violence cases, you have a very short window period in which medical and forensic evidence must be managed, otherwise it is lost. Every minute that that passes after a sexual violation is a loss of evidence is taking place. So people really need civic education is required to educate the whole community on what to do. So do not shower, do not change, go to a hospital first, not a police station.
All right, let me slow you down a little bit, because that's very crucial.
Yes,
it forms a very pivotal part of this conversation. The steps to take. There could be somebody watching, and some have even communicated to us on social media concerning how do I go about it. They could be in their small corner of the world. They feel like their rights have been violated in one way or the other, and they fall under the category of victims of gender-based violence. But what next? What am I supposed to do? Others lament of cases being thrown out because of lack of sufficient evidence. So what should be done in this whole process?
Yes, and I've seen a lot of cases like that where evidence is lost. So the first thing to always do, even when you feel that nothing has happened to you, because you'll find cases where maybe there's been an attempted rape, but the victim says, nothing happened, so I decided not to go to the hospital. You must go to a hospital, because at the end you'll be asked, what did you do about this? Unfortunately, victims are, in our current state, have to kind of prove this thing happened, which is unfortunate, but it's good to have evidence. So make sure you go to a hospital first. Even if you feel nothing was done, just have yourself checked. Let the doctors examine you, conduct a medical assessment. If there's evidence to collect, let them collect that evidence, generate a medical legal report. That is what you'll then use to go to the police station. Then they will need that. And then they'll put it into their police file, which will then be presented to the prosecution, who will then decide whether there's sufficient evidence or not. So it's always good to do that. Don't shower. I know it's hard, but don't shower. Please don't shower until you've been seen by a medical personnel, who will then collect the evidence. Even your clothes should be collected and left at the medical facility.
So go straight to the hospital.
Just go straight to the
station.
hospital. Don't go to the police station first, unless your safety is at risk. If you have a safety problem, then you go to the police. But the best place to go is the hospital, because it will take care of your medical needs and the forensic needs. And also there are medical issues that need to be dealt with, and they also have a short window period in which this can be done. So emergency contraceptives, HIV prophylaxis, STI prophylaxis, that's sexually transmitted transmitted infections prophylaxis, and psychological therapy, emergency psychotherapy, because it's a highly traumatic event, and no one should ever dilute that into nothing.
Right. So it's sort of like think of your wellness first, your physical wellness first, then think of justice as the next step.
Yes, your physical wellness first, and ideally the two should be done concurrently.
Right.
So the evidence will be gathered, and once evidence is gathered, it can be kept. If it's done properly, it can be stored until you're ready for adults to go to the next level. So once it's there, which is why it's always best to go to the hospital first.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Is this the same process for other forms of violence, like physical violence, maybe domestic violence at home? You want to pursue justice, how do you go about it?
Again, always go to a hospital. Right. And one of the things we've noticed in especially intimate partner violence, women tend to be the bulk of the victims. 90% of victims are women. So they will keep quiet about it. They'll say, oh, he'll change. They'll let many incidents pass without reporting it at all. So you should always get to a medical facility. Let that go in and have a medical report, because you never know when you'll need it. Then if you decide you need to go to the next level, you can have all these medical reports that you'll just hand over and say, this happened on this day, this day, this day, this day. Now the issue comes in when some people feel that they're not safe keeping those things at home because it may cause more violence. There are ways that this can be dealt with. You can take photos and send to a loved one, someone who you trust, to keep it for you, or get a legal aid, because there are agencies that can offer that legal aid for free, and they can keep it for you.
All right. I've heard very clearly from what you're saying that even if you're not emotionally and mentally, in a good condition to walk the journey to seek justice immediately, it's always safe just to have that record somewhere. You can always go back to it when you feel you're stable enough to pursue this particular journey. All right. So are there any recommendations or numbers or organizations that one would reach out to pursue the same?
There are very many, and this actually we are flooded with numbers, but we have,
and do those systems work? People ask.
Some do, some don't. I know the police numbers work, 999-112. There are others as well, which I'm sure are available on the website. There's also 1195, which is a gender-based violence hotline. There's 116 for child abuse issues by Childline Kenya, and then there are very many. I think those are the major ones that we need to know. And then there are different people who, there are agencies like Buyers Beware Kenya. If you just let them know, then they'll find the right person to link you with. Or look for me on Facebook. On social media, there are a number of people who will link you to the right place and give you the information that you need.
All right. Let's talk about one of the biggest challenges in reporting some of these cases is, it's a very private and intimate situation. Somebody has found themselves in they're put in a process where they have to retell and re-narrate this story to different people in different locations. Some you have to travel to different offices. It's really draining for a victim at this particular point. Talk to us about how that gap can be sealed. Is there a way probably around this that a victim can be cushioned from going through such?
Well, currently you're right, there is a lot of fragmentation, and this is because the different requirements are offered by different facilities. So you'll have the post-rape care form is required, and it's only at medical facilities. There's a P3 form at police stations, and then the police will want both of them sometimes. The DPP's office might want them also. So all this fragmentation and different requirements results in a lot of time wasting. A lot of time is wasted, evidence is diluted or lost, and you get victim or survivor fatigue because they get tired of all this.
Not all of them would want to go through.
No, many
process.
Actually don't bother. They just say it's just too much work, it's too difficult, forget about it. And at the same time, the suspect is probably intimidating them and telling them, I told you nothing will happen to me. And this actually happens. So my recommendation for this is to reshuffle all these resources into one holistic kind of setup. So if you can have your medical doctors, your nurses or clinical officers, your forensic practitioners, the police in one location, like a multi-agency center, forensic medical center, for example, then the victim or survivor would just be walking in one way. They get their OB number there, everything is documented once, the examination is done once, evidence is collected once, it is preserved and stored once, and they get their psychotherapy there once, and they're referred to where they'll go for follow-up thereafter, and they don't have to keep coming back. They'll just live with what they need, and I truly believe this is possible.
Do we have such an arrangement, or are there plans for us as a country to have that?
We do not currently have all the services in one location. There are steps that have been made towards achieving this by different ministries, Ministry of Health, the Police, Ministry of Gender Affairs, but currently I've not seen that in existence at this point.
All right. So we've talked so much about the victim. We've not touched on the suspect in this particular case. How are they identified? What is done, you know, in this process?
So I'm happy you've asked that, because you know, a victim, when you have a sexual violence case or even physical assault, whatever kind of violence, it's not just one person involved, it's two people or more involved in a particular location, and that is what crime scene management is. The victim is part of a crime scene, the suspect is part of a crime scene, and so is the location. And so what we currently do mostly in our setup is have, for example, in sexual violence cases, you'll have that person, the victim or survivor, is the one who goes through this rigorous medical and possibly evidence collection process, but the suspect is just presented in court many times. But they are also supposed to go through a proper suspect forensic evidence collection management process. And this is where you'll be able to link what was found on the victim with what will be found on the suspect and the location. And this, because suspects are innocent till proven guilty. And so you need to collect evidence from them as well, so that you can have something to compare with the suspect, the victim, and the location. And this is an aspect that is forgotten several times.
Is missed.
Yes,
it's good you brought that out. Unfortunately, we're almost running out of time for this very important conversation, but a lot you're doing, you know, just to speak for the voiceless. Talk to us about Vunja Kimya Foundation. What is your mission and what's the story?
Vunja Kimya Foundation, it began as a website where I would upload information, because I really wanted people to know, you know, don't go to this and don't do that. I wanted to give them the do's and the don'ts, and just to lessen the struggle that I was noting with victims of violence, even suspects. And then we decided to build it further and register it as a non-government organization under the NGO Coordination Board. So the basic mission and vision and purpose of this foundation is to strengthen the criminal justice system in different ways. So like being here is one way. We are discussing this and people are learning from it. Publications, writing more articles, strengthening systems within, for example, like safe houses. Many times you come across young girls, we just talked about teenage pregnancies. These are defiled children who have had children, and so they need justice as well. So we try to work with homes that support such girls and children, so that they also don't abuse their children, and so that they can get justice by linking them to the right service providers. We also offer forensic medical examinations for cases that require this and that come in a timely manner. So these are just some of the things that we do.
All right. And we commend you. Your work has seen you earn quite a number of awards. Human Rights Defender of the Year Award 2017, Top 40 Under 40 Women in 2015, and I can go on and on about what you have achieved. But talk to us about what is next for you as Dr. Kizzie Shako, the human rights defender side of you. What is next? What are we looking at? What is your next move?
That's a hard one. I basically what I dream for, this I'll talk about my dream, is to be able to address these gaps and challenges at policy level. I'm not sure how that will happen, but that is my dream, because it's at policy level where decisions are made and where budgetary allocations are provided to attach to these recommendations that one is making. So that is what I'm striving to do at this point. Yes.
That story about forensic pathology, we'll talk about it some other time, your passion. Is it only me or other people find it it gives them a chilling feeling.
It's not only you, it's everyone. Yeah, it's everyone who always thinks forensic pathology, but I'm not a pathologist. I'm just a forensic medical doctor.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for creating time. Of course, we can always pick this up another time. So far, so good. I believe people are learning, and thank you. Now you know. In case you find yourself in a situation where you feel that you have been violated, the first thing to do is to go to the hospital for that medical checkup, for records to be put in in place. You may not want to go and pursue that journey of justice immediately, but it will be useful in case you think twice about it in the near future. That's where many people go wrong, and that is where evidence is missed. That's according to Dr. Kizzie Shako, my guest tonight. Thank you so much once again, and thank you for watching. Of course, this is the space where we talk about issues affecting families and affecting people in the society, just struggling to build better societies out there. We are now going to be taking a short break. We are coming back with much more. John Jacob